Yeah, I'm pretty sure. There's Margaret.
Here she is.
Okay. Do you all have a preference about who takes over the meeting host?
Embry or Margaret, you guys do it because you're
Usually, yeah, one of us usually does it.
Sorry, I don't know what's been going on with my computer.
Yeah, it took me a long time to log into Zoom. I don't know, like
Yeah, it was not playing well today.
Yeah, I don't know. I heard on the radio, this was last week, but I heard on the radio, if you have a disruption in service, it's because of solar flares. And I was like, really? Cool. Sort of.
All right, so Embry or Margaret, who wants to take over the meeting?
Margaret.
Margaret,
Okay.
you got it.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you.
And the recording is on.
Recording is on. Can't say anything too provocative. So we've got Lynn from the organizing committee, but we don't have anyone else. So, and Simone. So do you guys have anything you want to say to the people currently on the call, or?
Sarah's on here too.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I don't, why don't we just wait for Robin, who I think it will be joining. I'm surprised he's not on yet.
Okay.
And so there's some new names to me, but I've missed a few meetings. So do you want to run through introductions too before we get into the?
Yeah. Okay. That's always good. This is why we have you, Piper, to keep us legit.
Yeah, and Margaret, David Green's on the call too, and he's also from NREL, so it'll be good to make introductions.
Yeah. So I'm Margaret McCauley. I'm with the United States Environmental Protection Agency, and I'm in the Region 10, which is Pacific Northwest Water Division. And we get requests from all the tribes and nations in Pacific Northwest. We kind of make people file lists of complaints, is what I call them. And so then we can cross-reference with, those sort of organized lists of complaints with the funding that we have and make sure that those align. And one of the ones that's been ongoing since it turns out the original Clean Water Act in 1971 is better sanitation options. And while, there's excellent work going on with pipe systems, it has become clear, or has always been clear, I don't know, that there are situations in which pipe solutions aren't going to work for a mix of economic, social, and particularly engineering reasons. And so better options for those instances are still needed, even as we improve piped options in places. So to work on that, I pulled all sorts of wonderful people like you together. And yeah, it's been great learning from other people. I love it. Embry?
Margaret called me one day and said, do you know anything about anaerobic digestion in the Arctic? And I was like, no, but let's find out. So I know about anaerobic digestion. So Margaret, I think she's really the one who's sort of spearheading this whole effort. And I've just been lucky enough to be able to ride her coattails and get to collaborate and meet all these people. And so I'm a wastewater engineer by training. I was working at Washington State University when Margaret first contacted me. I do now work for an engineering consulting firm that does a lot of, that only does water and wastewater, and that does a lot of anaerobic digestion and gas, biogas work. So yeah, it's just, I'm also learning a lot from everybody else, right? So this has been a great, just stuffing of the brain and collaborative, fun environment to get to talk about poop and fart professionally. So that's me.
I'm Piper Peterson, and I do Superfund hazardous waste cleanup for my day job, and they've wrote me in to be a facilitator. But you guys are this high functioning team. If you've not sat on any or many meetings, the last 2 years was that norming forming meeting, and now you're going to be. There's been no storming. There'll be no storming in this group, but the money's coming in, the grants are coming in, the meetings are being planned. So hang on to your seat. There's exciting things happening with this group, and I imagine great successes, or at least great learnings, right? Because sometimes a good science experiment doesn't always result in a thumbs up, but you learn things along the way. So it's a great international work group, and you guys have all made connections, and some of you on this call, and many of the other people that are not on the call talk with each other, not at these meetings, and it's been really fun to watch it all develop. So welcome to Chad. So go ahead. Hi, Sarah. Why don't you go next?
Hi, I'm Sarah Azmi-Wendler. I'm a project manager with NREL. I'm originally from Malaysia, so not Chad, not cold or high, but I've been in Alaska for the last 8 years. Fun fact, I moved here for a boy who's not my husband, so it's fair. And yeah, project manager. I'll pass it off to David.
Sure. Thanks, Sarah. So I'm David Green. I am sitting in Boulder, Colorado. I've been with NREL for about 4.5 years. I am also an environmental engineer, civil engineer. My relevance to this project, prior to NREL, I was with the Austin, Texas water wastewater utility for about 10 years. Hey, well, I went to Rice for undergrad, so it's sorry, Embry. But
Okay, once you're out of Texas, we're all friends.
That's right. So at Austin, I started up their whole sustainability and climate program. So got to learn the insides of water and wastewater, from watershed protection and treatment and collection and biosolids and the whole schmeal. So I have deep experience with using biogas for cogen and rehabbing a cogen generator, but and also just rehabbing anaerobic digesters at a very large scale. So have some experience there. Prior to Austin, I was 5 years with the international water and sanitation sector. So working on rural and appropriate technology around water treatment or dry sanitation, taking water out of the equation altogether. So combine those two, and it seemed to speak to this project. So I'm happy to be advising on appropriate technology in the Arctic, because I have not worked in the Arctic, but like you, Embry, I don't know anything about cold and anaerobics, but happy to be exploring.
You will.
Good morning, Robin. I see you popped on screen.
We're doing interviews because we have a new person.
Oh. Yeah.
We actually have a couple new people. I don't recognize some of these names, but maybe I'm just forgetful.
Yeah, good morning. I apologize. I couldn't get the link to work, so Lynn had to resend that to me.
Yeah, where do you sit?
Had some trouble.
Sorry, what was that?
I said, who are you? Where do you live? Why
do you wish me to speak? Okay.
Yeah, we got new
We're doing some introductions.
Constantly expanding.
New people.
I usually speak far too much, so I just decided to stay quiet.
Never.
Yeah, I do say a lot in this group, don't I? I'm Robin. I'm based in Scotland, in the UK, and I have joint duties. I do some academic stuff with the University of Aberdeen in northeast Scotland, where also one of my company associates in the city has built a large food waste anaerobic digestion unit. So I mix commercial and a little bit of academic work. And then this particular membership of the Chad group is where I try and put some of that knowledge and expertise. So for the bigger picture, I was one of the key people putting the application for the NATO fund together. I'm also an honorary lecturer at a university in Greece, which is much warmer. And that's all I need to say. Anaerobic digestion, I guess 25 to 30 years experience, mostly big scale, but we're doing some micro stuff as well. Okay.
I'll also say Robin has been a force for driving a lot of not just that NATO application, but articles about this group, and really just taken the lead on drafting and writing a bunch of stuff to the benefit of all of us. So thank you, Robin. That's
Okay, well,
keep
thank
talking. If don't skip that part.
Yeah, and
Thank
that goes to, if you need some of you new folks, if you're looking, we can tell you how the system, the IARPIC site works. Because a lot of this information should be available to you when you need to justify your hours working on out of the box activities to your supervisors, or when you're thinking about money opportunities that you may see. There may be something that, you know, we've written in the past couple of years that might get you halfway there and say, oh, okay, yeah, I get this group. And you can bring an idea back through email. You don't have to wait for meetings. So there's a lot of work that's been done. More to do, but it's good work that's been done. And thank you, Robin, for your energy and passion. Let's see, on my screen, I see Michael next, McCarl. There you are.
Not sure where Max came in. It's been mispronounced 1,000 ways, 1,000 times, but I sit in Anchorage, Alaska, with the Alaska Native Tribal Health Consortium. Been up here over 22 years. It's usually cold. I'm sort of a peripheral participant so far. Looking forward to this thing that's going to kick off in February. Our organization, at least my part of our organization, is mainly concerned with getting water treatment and sewage treatment into villages off the road system for the most part. So I'm part of that pipe gang that was mentioned earlier. But I do have a lot of interest in this subject, and I'm hoping to pick up some more experience here.
Yeah, it's great that all the different people's points of view and their strengths that they bring. It's been really fascinating to learn from everybody. Lynn, you're next on my screen.
Hey, I'll take off my video for just a second. Hey, hi, and I'm Lynn, and I'm based in Anchorage. We work for a nonprofit, Gender Environmental, and our interest is primarily from the waste management angle. Sorry, I'm cutting over the fluid. But our interest is primarily from the waste management angle. We work with pretty much most of the communities off the road system on solid waste, garbage, and honey buckets, and primarily, looking at kind of collection systems and ways that they can improve and reduce the health risk exposures from that. That's it.
Yeah, another really good boots on the ground angle and a fine grant mind, since they do a lot of work by finding and harvesting and successfully getting grants.
Also big supporter and participator of the NATO grant that we're working with.
Yes, that is true.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Nice.
And your partner in crime, all things good. Simone.
Hi, everyone. My name is Simone Saballo. I'm the Deputy Director at Zender Environmental. I have background in environmental engineering, and I did my master's thesis on testing compost toilets as an alternative to honey buckets in rural Western Alaska communities. And at Zender, I work with rural communities, managing our technical assistance and training program. We put on multiple trainings every year on a variety of topics, solid waste, honey bucket related, water quality. It's a pretty big range, and backhaul as well. So yeah, work heavily with rural communities throughout the state. Thanks.
I love these introductions because you always learn something new about each of you. So thank you. Dan.
Hey, good morning. Dan Smith with USDA Rural Development. I believe I worked with you, Mike, over at ANTHC years ago briefly. But I have done my entire career in rural Alaskan energy. And my goal in this group is trying to find a way to bring alternative energies, whatever that might look like, to rural Alaska. Because the genesis of my interest in this topic was I got a biomass feasibility study request from NOTAC way up north at the tree line. And they don't really have enough trees to support a woody biomass project. And it's hard to do solar, because when they need it the most, there's no sun. They got 24/7 sun in summer, but wind they can't do because they're kind of in a bowl. So there's no real, and their river is too slow flowing to support a hydro project. So there's no real easy alternative energy, and they're kind of stuck paying ridiculous rates for diesel generation. And that is right now, I think, about $17 a gallon for imported diesel fuel. But one resource they do have is poop. And that's one resource that every Alaskan or every community that humans have is there's going to be waste products, waste material, and just trying to find some way to use that as a beneficial energy resource. And so I'm mostly here to listen in. I'm just a humble civil engineer undergrad, and I'm a little out of my depth when I'm working in the energy sphere, because I have not taken a single thermodynamics class. So all my knowledge has kind of just been accrued over, working around you folks, and the folks that actually know what's going on. So I'm just here to listen. And I have occasionally hopped on these calls over the last few years. But my point in joining this particular call is I got the email blast about the upcoming workshop in March, and I'm hoping to learn more about that and see if it's something that I would be interested in attending, or if it's and how I can justify it to my employer, which I was recently at Department of Energy. Now I moved over to USDA 4 months ago, so I'm still very new, and I'm trying to figure out what I can justify to my new supervisor. So,
And are you located in Alaska?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
located in Anchorage,
Okay.
and I drive out to Palmer a couple times a week. It's for those of you unfamiliar, it's basically our suburb.
Okay.
So.
And there's a great video from our friends from the Southern Hemisphere about poop to energy, that we can send a link to you that you can get inspired from, or go touch base with. And then, if you need to connect directly for some questions in between these meetings, we have a resource for you. So welcome.
Is that on the IARPIC website somewhere?
It should be in there, yeah. But
Okay.
I'll refresh my memory of what's all on there and the links to it, and get those to you.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Brian.
Hey, good morning. Brian Himmelblum. I live in Kodiak, Alaska, land of the Lutic Supiaq people. I'm a retired faculty member of UAF, and I worked for 30 years at the Kodiak Seafood and Marine Science Center as a seafood microbiologist. I'm kind of interested in the subject of this group. I have a little bit of academic training in anaerobic microbiology. I did a postdoc at University of Massachusetts Amherst back in the day, and discovered a ring-shaped Clostridium species that was useful in degrading pectin. It was more of an interest in human microbiology. The organism was discovered from the human intestinal tract, which is probably where we have poop being developed. And then as a faculty member, I was involved in a study where we were trying to find an alternative species for use in inoculated studies of foods, the alternative to Clostridium botulinum, and so we're growing Clostridium sporogenes in the lab, and that's my knowledge base of practical experience of anaerobic microbiology. But being in Alaska, I'm very interested in problem solving, and I can understand the situations in rural Alaska, particularly in Northwest and Western Alaska, where the need is to control waste, human waste, because a lot of there are no really serious treatment plants. There's just sewage lagoons, so you have naturally anaerobic systems occurring. And so I'm just here to learn what's going on with this particular group, and I'm very interested in attending the conference that's at my former home institution up in Fairbanks. Thank you.
Thank you and welcome aboard. I'm sure all of those little buggies you were talking about will be useful at some point. Throw them into the mix. Eat poop, guys. And let's see. The last person I see on my screen is Robert, not least at all.
Hi guys, I'm going to leave my video off because the internet's been pretty unstable. I'm with Alaska Center for Energy and Power, research engineer, part of UAF system, and I'm located down in Girdwood, south of Anchorage. My background is in construction. I spent probably the larger portion of my 20 plus years in Alaska working in rural communities, whether it be working on energy or actual construction projects, building homes and electrical work. I joined this group mainly because, in the rural Alaska communities, I noticed, the human waste is definitely a major issue, and it's just getting worse and worse as the populations grow. And then I stumbled into another, option that drew some interest, and hopefully we can still make this happen, using a absorption chiller powered by solar and alternately electricity to heat an anaerobic digester through the winter months. So that's one of the grants that we're hoping that we pick up again in March. But I also see that Dan's on this call. So Dan, if you think that there's anything currently out there with USDA that would support a project like this, please let me know. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah. Hey, Rob. I'm still learning and drinking from the fire hose still. USDA has an incredibly undersubscribed number of programs. And I'm still trying to learn the ins and outs of all of them, when the funding cycles come up and what the eligibility requirements are for all of them. And there's a lot. But yeah, Rob, let's touch base. I'd love to make it down to Girdwood sometime. Give me an excuse.
Sounds great. Appreciate it. Coffee is really good down here.
Oh, I know. It's been too long since I've been down there. But yeah, let's touch base.
All right. Thanks, Dan.
Outside of this, you can share your contact information in the chat if you want to do that easily, just to make sure that you don't leave the meeting without it. Just suggest that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Margaret. I don't know the order of business. I know there's the conference to talk about. Money's rocking and rolling now.
Yeah, there's the conference planning, in which we are, I think, well, I'm not, but the committee is looking for additional co-sponsors and trying to sort of get a core group of people signed up. And Lynn and Robin, there he is. Robin, if this group is useful to talk about that would be great. And then next on the agenda would be Sarah telling us the status of the digester at the facility where the March meeting will be, that I have finally gotten her money to build. Yay! And then would be projects other people want to tell us about, how they're going, and then connections that people would like to make. But obviously that can happen all throughout the conversation. But yeah, opportunities to collaborate are definitely something that I hope this group can provide to people. So Robin and Lynn, do you want to?
Robin, did you want to give an update first on people and where we're at?
I was going to suggest you do it, Lynn. Do you want? But I'm happy to take it on if you like.
I've
Do you
got the
want to-
spreadsheet. I mean, I can do it, but I'm out of my depth here. I just got the spreadsheet of things.
Okay, Lynn, shall I deal with the numbers and then you can take on just a few comments in respect of the organizational side of things and where our gaps are, that sort of stuff. Is that okay?
Yep, sounds good.
Okay, I'll deal with the numbers then as we have it. It's a bit of a chicken and egg situation in the sense that we really need to get people to sign in and really express interest in doing this, and we're at kind of a pivotal point or a pivot point for this right now. Some people say, well, I'm not sure if I'll commit or can go, and of course that then is a little bit negative for us, because what we really need to do is to firm up on who's coming under what circumstances, because we do have money promised to us, contractually promised, and I think that's really important. We have contractually promised money from the NATO Science for Peace program, and that does indeed cover most of the costs for attendance for qualifying people. Now, qualifying people in a general sense are those that work in the public sector, in education, in the NGO side of life. Somebody like myself can qualify because I have those part-time roles in a university, even though most of my working life is in commercial activities. So, you know, there is leeway there. Somebody that wants to come but is involved in a purely commercial situation, like a water company or a technology provider or a vendor, then they won't get funding from us, but they are able to attend the meeting in any event by paying a small fee. That's the intention of that. But to cut to the chase, we have received so far a total of 24 firm expressions of interest, most of which, but not all of which, have given us enough information to know exactly where they are from and what their background is. So 24 people. Our budget offered to NATO was based on 31 attendees, so we are still short. We had a program provisionally of 17 speakers and chairpersons, stuff like that, but we at the moment have 11 of our 24 who would come into that category. So we do have some shortfalls. Because it's an international fund, then we did promise that our people would come from different locations. For instance, myself from the UK. The people that qualify from the international group, in order to get funding, have to be from a NATO country. And we expected in our budget 7 people from NATO, 7 countries to be represented from NATO countries and 3 from non-NATO countries. Our current position of our 24 attendees is that we've got 6 NATO and 1 non-NATO country represented. And we have also, of those, 3 attendees who are self-funding. So there's a reasonable balance, but we're not quite there yet. Now, we haven't tackled NATO in respect of whether our reduced numbers will still leave our eligibility for funding at that 100% value, or whether we just get pro rata funding. I'm personally not clear on that. We won't know that until we have a final budget, which we must submit in November. And we must submit it in November in the sense that it has to be so many working days before the event itself, approximately 3 months worth. But with Christmas in the middle of that, then that's why we are working towards a November program. There are a couple of things I would say that in terms of the numbers, that the 24 is still not a bad group. You know, it's a room full of like-minded people. I would prefer it to be north of 30. We will also have the opportunity for online attendance. And I definitely know that there are people who say, well, I might log in online, and we have probably 20 students who are likely to come online as well. And I haven't included those numbers, but we did include them, as mentioned, in the NATO budget originally, in terms of the scale of what we're doing. In terms of what we're doing, it's very important for everybody to realize that this is not a lecture session where people will just turn up and be told how to build a cold AD unit or something like that. This is very much a workshop discussion program where we want to bounce ideas around. We want to have whiteboard sessions and so on. So it's not a learning event just to find out how to do something. It's about how to create strategies, processes, and the way forward. So that's where we're aimed. And that's what we've got in terms of the current agenda and attendees. We're now having to move forward to firming up in terms of what money will be dispersed and to whom. Obviously, somebody coming from the other side of the world needs more money to attend than somebody that's coming from Seattle, for instance. But each of those people, if they qualify, will get what they need. That is the point. It's get what you need rather than a blanket offer. So we'll be moving very shortly into a position where we ask everybody exactly what they need. Then the committee will make an offer to that person for returning a budget form. So I've drafted that for the committee group, just literally finished that today. So those that have expressed interest will then receive a small form, a small Excel sheet to add up their expected expenses, and then the committee will give an offer, and that will be a fixed and final offer. If it then turns out that your flight costs more or something like that, then that's not something that we will be able to be too flexible on. So that's a sort of a reality check on where we are. There is more to say in terms of organization, of how the thing will run. So we've been talking about that in committee. And Lynn, would you like to take it from here and then come back to me as necessary?
Sure. Yeah. And Robin, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think with the addition of Jane, who was one of the folks that I sent today, she's from Canada. So that would make 7 NATO instead of 6.
Who is Canada?
Jane
Fowler from Simon Fraser.
Jane Fowler. Oh yeah. Okay. Yes, in fact, that does add one. So that is great, because I was going to say, I think Canada is underrepresented. So in fact, not represented at all so far.
Jane has that mantle.
So yes, please, let's see more and more from there. I would be delighted to add that. That's great. And thank you for pointing that one out.
And Robin, there'll be 3 more from NREL that I've just been pushing to sign up, who has not. So that'll be closer to 30.
I just submitted mine 2 minutes ago.
Are you actually coming, or are you going to attend remotely, David?
To be determined. I'd love to come. I'll try to make it work.
And I was going to say, I think there's at least a couple of folks in Anchorage, but they have not signed up yet. I think Kristen Reardon had mentioned interest as well in attending. But so just kind of general logistics. We have so the workshops that March 5th, 6th, and 7th. We expect people to get there on the 4th. I think we were thinking of having the dinner on the 5th, which is the first full night of the conference. Was that correct? Because that was a question I had. I think I've heard both 4th and 5th.
On
But-
the after the first full working day, yes. That's what I think that is what the committee agreed.
Yeah, so I think so we've got sort of a placeholder at a senior citizen center, but apparently they do a decent job of catering and all that kind of thing. For whatever reason, Fairbanks is somewhat full that week. We don't know why. But we've got some hotel rooms, block of 20 reserved at the Westmark, which is downtown. The workshop will be held at NREL, where Fatima was not able to get on for some reason. She's having connectivity issues as well, but her and Sarah and other folks are going to be trying to nail down the optional field trips as well. And then including sort of the permafrost tunnel, seeing the Northern Lights potentially, and Chena Hot Springs. And then we've got now, Sarah was able to get a quote for the video piece, AV, and we have where we're going to get lunch. We have the lodging. We're going to nail down the transport. We're hoping we can get funding from Denali Commission, it sounds like, as a potential. And so we're kind of just moving along with all that. I think that we will be limited in funding. So we really could use some additional funds for travel. That's my guess, just with the folks attending now. So if anyone knows of either a way to get a little bit more funding, either for travel or for the workshop itself, just let us know. That'd be great. What else? The agenda, is still, I think, an outline, as Robin mentioned.
When you say the agenda, you mean the actual speaker list and the timing of what we're doing?
Yeah, exactly. Kind of.
Yeah, I mean, when we applied to NATO, we had to make a guess of exactly how the meeting would work over these days. So we've still got flexibility in that, and anybody that would like to present their work as a speech or a talk, very, very welcome to do so, and we can still slot that in. We have had a few changes. One or two of the people that originally we thought would come in, for instance, as a session chair, some of these people have not been able to sign up in the end. So we will have flexibility in how we actually run the individual sessions. But I think we could benefit from more. I think in a general sense, Lynn, you're right to say that the budget is limited. We do have a particular amount of money. So that's why it's important for expressions of interest, because we'll do our damnedest to make sure that we give the funding that we need to the people that initially express interest, and then everybody else after our deadlines will be the ones at a lower priority. I think that's just common sense. And that will be where we focus part funding offers or something like that. The long haul people are the ones that obviously we have to be most careful about to make sure they come, because they are also, from the point of view of NATO, it is their wish, and in fact it's our obligation to make sure that we have this as an international group meeting. Otherwise we lose our funding. It is actually simple.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I'm actually confident that we can now do this. I know there were one or two doubters, but I think we are at a point where genuinely we've got to reach a critical mass of what we're doing, and now we've got to give everybody comfort that let's get the individual prices in and get the the offers back so that we can say, yes, book your ticket and do this. I want to come to Alaska anyway, so I'm going to book the ticket, whatever we do. So I'll be there. You can come and talk to me.
Margaret, I wonder if this might also be an opportunity to reach out to the Global Methane Initiative and to Monica Shimamura and see if she knows anybody who would want to come. I know she's not secretariat anymore. She's the wastewater chair, right? But I think that she would probably know she might reach out to her network to see if there's other folks, and her network is entirely international, may not be NATO members, but we can give it a go.
Some of them must be.
Well, remember,
Yeah.
funding is available to NATO countries, people from NATO countries and NATO
partners. Yeah. So if
NATO countries and NATO partner countries.
Yeah.
So they don't have to be NATO members. They just don't have to be aggressive in the opposite direction. So it's I mean, not to make too much of it, but we do have one person who is very, very friendly to our group here. But just from a personal opinion, they don't want to take NATO money, and that's their personal decision. We do, on the other hand, have two people who are really long-term associates of mine who would like to come, but actually they're from the state of Israel. So right now they are completely locked down and they won't be on our list. Israel is a NATO partner country. So, politics, kick that aside. It's about partnership.
Yeah.
And wherever we can, we'll find a way to support that.
Good. Then I'll write her an email right now while we're on this call and just let her know what's going on and see if she wants to reach out to her folks.
That'd be awesome.
Okay.
Do we want to? We don't have to, and we can do it next month or not at all. Do we want to talk about the structure of the agenda and if there are topics or areas that we feel like we want to make sure are included, and therefore there are people or research centers that we want to particularly reach out to? I've been in sort of a you tell me if you're interested.
There's one thing that I wanted to point out that's not included here is UAA. Trying to find the name. Somebody has Aaron.
Yeah, Aaron Thompson.
Thompson. Yeah.
I think they should be included, and also Dev Subbatra and Brandon Briggs.
Yep.
They're still working. Yeah, so they're not on the list. I think they should be involved because they are working on something similar, and they're in Anchorage, so not a far reach.
But we actually asked Aaron if he'd run some of the samples from the digester pilot in his lab. So if he comes, then I think part of this is also part of the agenda could also be if you want to help participate in the pilot, right? What pieces and parts could we? I don't know. Sorry, I don't want to presume, but it might be
Sarah, do you have topics or parts of the agenda that you think that they would fit into, and would you want to reach out to those folks and say, hey, would you like being a panelist or a session moderator? The parts that Robin has said aren't going to be as
okay. Well, we can look at the current schedule as we last had it. Does anybody have it immediately to hand, or shall I dig that out of a file?
I can pull out something. We gotta have a little race.
Sorry, I just missed what's going on. I just turned my attention and
I know, same.
I'm just trying to get hold of on my system the proposed schedule.
Oh,
which I now have. I can share that if you wish me to.
Oh, okay. Should I stop sharing this? Is that what?
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, no, you're all, okay. Okay,
Yeah,
Is
looks
that,
good.
is that what you want?
yes.
Okay. Unfortunately, it's now behind everybody's heads, but
And
if you can see it, that's great. Even if I can't.
I do want to mention that when I looked at this to develop the flyer, I noticed that there was not any kind of integration with communities, and in terms of that's a big design piece. So I think in the flyer I tried to group sort of topics, and of course just block topics to better fit what we're trying to accomplish. And I don't know if anyone has that flyer.
Yeah, I can
Too.
sharing. So yeah, I don't know. Is this the venue that we want to try to work that out, or?
Well, I think if you could just show the flyer real quickly, maybe.
Sure.
And it's too bad we can't just do a side by side. I guess we could on a screen. If you could share a screen, if someone could pull this both up.
I don't think I'm that clever. Although I see your point, that would be good. So
Yeah.
I'll just do a little highlight, and then and anyone else able to share 2 documents at once on their Zoom screen? I can.
Yeah, no, if you just share your whole screen instead of the application, instead of the window.
Okay, fine.
Anyway, I did try to just sort of groups in the morning research. I think it's important to bring up the aspect of what the communities are like that we're designing for, and that piece of that sort of human-centered design piece as well. And I didn't see that as much in the planned agenda. So I just thought that that would be sort of if we block off, if we put in blocks of sort of morning, afternoon, that we have some themes, and that seems to me that community piece should come.
Would you want that separate from the existing things, or
I just did the.
Say, do you want them in parallel or sequence?
Well, what I'm suggesting is that we perhaps start with sort of themes for the day or for the morning, and then fit the discussions and presentations within those themes, because in this agenda here we don't really have that piece.
I would just like to say I'm still blown away by the fact that Robin managed to create this agenda out of thin air. So I would just like to say that we can certainly make it updated, but anyway. So yes, so how do you want me to start typing on the screen?
That's just my own suggestion. I think for myself and our organization, the big reason why we submitted the application, other than really liking all you guys a lot, is it's that piece of serving the communities that we're with. And so I want to make, and that's kind of what our organization does. So it's important for us to make that kind of clear in the sort of in this topic. I think that should be presented first, as this is what we're doing. This is why we're doing this. These pieces are important in considering in the design that we're looking at. Would be helpful, I think, in the morning, the first day.
So
Well,
that,
and even
Lynn,
I'm looking at your title, a renewable energy from anaerobic digestion. This is in the flyer, I think you called it. Can you put community there? It says remote and off-grid applications. It's kind of a dry way of saying community. Can you jazz that up?
Okay, just to kind of put these 2 documents in perspective, you have to bear in mind that the more formal agenda is the NATO application, written at a time where we were just guessing in terms of what we were going to do. And it was also written in NATO speak. So
Okay.
off-grid applications is a term which is, it meets their kind of military style of thinking almost, if I can put it that way. The final agenda has to still be reported back to them in a fairly formal way, but the flyer is more of a document aimed at a wider community. So there's no problem with changing the agenda to look more like the flyer, but we still have to report back to NATO when the money is finally being justified as to how we did it in a sort of a quasi-academic way. But I think the flyer actually is a good reflection, and I totally agree with Lynn's entire point that the community issues are not fully addressed. And you wouldn't expect them to be fully addressed in the way that the funder was expecting us to write this up in the first place. So I don't have a problem with shifting this. And also some of the names now have disappeared. And also some people rightly have said, well, why on earth did you put my name against something? Well, I didn't have a choice because I just had to have spread names against slots. So, these things will change.
So what I'm hearing is it's okay to soften and emphasize communities in the flyer, not soften, but there is a bit of a the NATO-ese that the agenda needs to follow, because these are documents that we send back to say, this is what was accomplished, this is what we did, these are the meeting, these are the sessions that we had, these are the actual people that ran them.
Yeah,
so I don't know how much I'm thinking of the flyer and then somehow doing a summary, Robin, of what you said for the attendees, that we have some surety around and the numbers that you need, putting those two things together for kind of is it one last or one of the last two invitation blasts, because if they can, sometimes people don't sign up if they're not really sure what they're signing up for, but now that you've got this flyer, it's much more clear, right, to folks. And if they show up and they have an agenda that's got some dry sounding names, that doesn't really matter. You're going to be talking about the things that are important to this whole topic.
Well, I would also be happy to suggest that we actually, at this stage, knock some of the slots out and make them available to other people. So obviously what I sent to NATO was a full agenda, as if that's what was going to happen. But if somebody else gives us an expression of interest and says, can I speak? They could look at the agenda and say, well, there's no room for me. So if we can find a few speaker to be confirmed kind of slots, then actually that's not a bad thing, because that gives the chance of people to actually offer that.
Okay.
It's also worth saying that we did agree fees for people that are not in receipt of funding to come along, because they won't come for free and other people do get funding. So somebody from a commercial group, for instance, that wants to listen and participate will have to pay something to Zenda in order to attend. And that's really important because, of course, we're all sitting here at our screens talking for free, but actually this is taking up time, both particularly for Zenda, but also for me. And it's only right and proper that somebody from a commercial company that wants to attend at least pays something, because they will be getting in receipt the meeting itself, but they'll also be getting transportation. They need to be fed, stuff like that. So there is an attendance fee for.
Which is that, Robin, just because again, like if I start like distributing this to additional networks, academia is going to be one thing, but how much has the budget been kind of assessed for what that fee should be?
We did have that number, but I just thought it was, I'll confirm that in a minute.
Okay, it's okay. I mean, it doesn't have to.
And it's important to realize that if you're not on the supported list, then you do have to pay something. Can I put it like that? But I think it's also fair to say, and we haven't discussed this in detail, but there will be a middle ground of people maybe from charities and communities that will pay nothing.
Yeah.
So we're just kind of having like a 3-tier level. There will be those that are funded to attend, those that have to pay to attend, and those that we will use our discretion to make sure they come because we want them to come.
Yeah.
And those that are in need, we'll try and make sure they turn up for free. But the middle ground has not been identified sufficiently. We were talking about a $480 attendance fee for the commercial type of people, 480 US dollars.
Yeah.
I don't know whether there'd be any taxes on top of that. That's not for me, but 480. And the partners, if let's say somebody's husband, wife, partner comes along and wants to come to the dinner, and also wants to come to be on the bus for the tour, for instance, that would be a $200 fee. I think that's realistic in the sense that there will be costs incurred by our group to allow that to take place.
Is there
So
a
that-
separate flyer for these group of people, or is it all the same and then you parse them out on your end?
We're working on that. That just hasn't been done at this stage. But those are the numbers. Okay.
Is there not that we might get here, but I heard some of the minimums that you were talking about, the number of NATO countries, the name and the different participants, number 31, we have 24 firm. Is there a top number? Don't want any more than 100?
No, the more that we won't have funding for everybody by any
Right.
means. You know, we won't. Our budget was calculated on the basis of what I referred to earlier, 31 delegates.
NREL can only host up to 60 people on our location.
Right. Well, that's our limit.
Okay.
But of course, people will be able to download or join online without coming to Fairbanks, and those, you know, that's another interesting element as well.
And then I heard about, it sounds like it's a busy, it's a busy week that week for some reason in town. I've not been up there in a long time. There's enough hotel rooms and all that for people to get.
For people to be able to find a hotel room, not necessarily at the same hotel that, you know, that 12 o'clock rooms are at. I don't know how many more rooms they might have. They're getting pretty full. But there are a number of hotels in Fairbanks that aren't full. So even I think a couple closer to the airport that aren't too expensive. Yeah.
I know it's a tourist destination and March isn't prime season like summer would be for people coming out, but you did say it was a busy week. So I just wanted to check in on that. That's not hosting March Madness or something.
No, I think that's later in the March. But yeah, I'm not really clear on why. It's in that week. The weekend before is a Rondi and the Iditarod start in Anchorage. So I would, but I don't know why it's busy in Fairbanks.
That's the start of ice art, but I'm not sure how busy that makes Fairbanks.
What's it starting? Ice?
The World Ice Art Championship.
Oh, that's in Fairbanks?
Yeah, and it's really impressive.
That's cool. Add that to another outing with your Northern Lights. Okay, so back to you guys are moving things across the flyer and the agenda, adding some speaker to be determined notations so that people can feel like they can attend and have a meaningful role.
But do you actually want to try and fix this agenda in the more formal version right now? Because we do have some completely different titles offered, which I haven't managed to plug into this at the moment. I think we just need to actually seek titles from attendees and then shuffle them. But the flyer needs to emphasize more of the community aspects. I accept that. I totally agree with Lynn in that regard. But when communicating with anybody else, it's important to say that the opportunity is there to present. Not only to present, but we haven't agreed officially with anybody as to how we can publish it, but anybody from the academic side will, I'm almost certain, be given the opportunity to put a paper into Biocycle Connect, which is not an official academic publication, of course, far from it now, but it is at least something that people will be given the chance to actually find something which is referenceable. That's the way to look at it.
Yeah, I mean, I just to be clear, I think the flyer is fine the way it is right now, except probably could change it to remote communities on the title. Because it does, I did change it to kind of have some community emphasis. And then like I said, the official agenda, I think, just needs to, once we get people's topics, we sort of need to, I think, fit it into a framework that matches the sort of general themes, I guess, of the different sections, the morning and the afternoon.
Oh, Sarah, I stole this picture off the web, so if you have a different picture, if anyone has.
I just thought it was like Fairbanks or something, or NREL.
Yeah, no, it's
it's our campus.
Yeah, so that's why I left it in there instead of having a small community. I figured.
Yeah. I think the only way forward is to make sure that people that express interest then receive a note to say, do you want a speaker slot or a poster slot? And if so, what's your title? I don't think we need to do more than that at this stage.
That sounds good. Do you have capacity to do that, or do you want someone else to do that?
Me not, because I'm actually about to disappear for 8 to 10 days. So I'm actually, as of tomorrow, I'm going to go and grab some sunshine while I can. So I'm on holiday next week and a few days. So
excellent. Yeah, I can do that then.
That would be fantastic if you could do that. The spreadsheet that I sent out to those that need it immediately, I sent out an attendees response list today, but in fact it's already been updated by Lynn with three others. So I can resend this direct to you if you want me to do that. That's probably the easiest way, Margaret. Is that okay?
Yeah, that works for me.
Right, I will do that as we speak, but let's carry on. Okay.
Yeah. Are there additional conference things this group would be helpful for?
Lynn, do you want to think about the picture? I'm not opposed to having NREL on the flyer, but is there a community picture that might be, an image? And it's hard to, you don't want the lagoon necessarily on the top cover.
I don't really, I mean, I don't know, Simone, what do you think? The reason why I left the picture as is, I don't really like to highlight a particular community unless that community is, sort of fully participating and is aware of.
Yeah. No, totally. I'm not saying just pick a picture. Yeah.
So, and I don't, I mean, since we don't know a community that is,
right,
fully aware of this workshop and what the purpose of their picture would be on the flyer, it would take some time, which I don't have.
or an image of a digester. I don't know. I'm just putting some ideas out there. So if anybody has any thoughts about that, it's not that this is a bad picture at all.
I think the snow, I mean, yeah, it shows that it's cold and it's where the conference is going to be. So I think that, to me, I think that would be fine.
Maybe a little notation, it's the NREL facility, Fairbanks. That's fair, yeah.
I must admit, I did like that picture.
Okay.
You have to bear in mind who it's aimed at, because
No, totally. I'm just asking a question.
if we're talking about technical, potentially people that want to drop us a bit of sponsorship, then it has to look something along the lines that you've got there. It may not be absolutely the best picture, but I think I think it serves its purpose right now.
Yeah. All right, so any other topics on the conference? We've got some parts and pieces given to people to follow up with. Still beating the dishes.
I have a silly question. So, so if we were to solicit additional funds, what is the process by which we would be able to transmit or convey those, and to whom would that go? Would that go to you, Lynn? And is there any formality or any sort of process by which, I mean, this is, again, like I think Margaret cannot, as the federal government, solicit funds. So I said I would try to help with that. But what are the procedural kind of administrative parts and pieces of that, if there are any, that I need to understand?
Well, we're pretty flexible on how the funds are received, but I mean, we do have a designated, account for that. I mean,
Okay.
coding, like, so we would just code it to the workshop, right?
Okay.
And then depending on what it's really going to depend on what the funds require, because so we're a 501c3 nonprofit. So if we're eligible to receive funds from that funding source, great. And if there are stipulations about what exactly can be spent on, that we can make sure that happens as well. But yeah, I think it's going to be more based on that. We're very flexible in terms of how we can accommodate it.
Well, forgive my ignorance, but are there institutions or organizations that you are not allowed to receive funds from?
Not to my not that I know of.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't think of any that we aren't allowed to receive funds from.
Okay.
So I mean, obviously we can't receive funding for something that we already have funding for, but that's not going to be the case here. So
yeah, okay, just checking.
Okay, would it be helpful? Here's a job that I can't do, but would it be helpful if somebody was to take the flyer that we were just looking at, but actually to flip it and rewrite it as an invitation to sponsor? So what are the benefits to a sponsor?
That's why I asked Margaret to send me that flyer.
Yeah, because
I could use that as the,
if you do things like contribute to your decarbonization program, or send a delegate to, or just give us $1,000 or whatever, the benefits are publicity, PR, joining a low carbon group or whatever, something like that. Those aren't the right words, but you could almost mirror image the flyer. If we had that single document, then I could send that to half a dozen big petrochemical names, individuals that I know that they're desperate for low carbon brownie points.
Yeah. Sorry
if you know the term. So, they're just looking.
Brownie points. Is that another anaerobic digester pun?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I think a reworked flyer as to the benefits to sponsors, and then please contact us for further details about sponsor packages. That gives us a bit of period of grace for us to do something on. But if somebody could have a crack at that, that would be brilliant.
I'll take that, because that was in my bucket anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be great. And Embry, are you aware, like we don't have funding right now for Jaime? where
Yeah, so I had asked Jaime to give me like a legit, so I sent him like a budget and I said, is this like is this okay? Like if we got this, so that we have sort of like an understanding of what his needs might be, so that that's what we can start soliciting for. I haven't heard back from him yet, but
Time is on.
I think
no,
that
Jaime Marti.
Oh, Marty, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and there are a couple of things I'd like to say that in terms of budgeting, I know what I'm about to say is an administrative challenge, but if everybody that's doing background work on this could just keep an approximate time list. I don't mean too formal, but in the end, when I report to NATO and Lynn, we as a committee group are going to have to do that. In a sense, all of our time spent on this is, it's effectively our investment
In kind.
as balancing funding, or you're right, in kind.
Yeah.
So in the end, I think it's highly unlikely anybody would ever ask us for timesheets, but we need to keep a realistic view of what our in-kind funding will be. So I'm not asking to report it just now, but just please bear in mind that this is a way of us doing the in-kind balance. So anything that you do, just please keep a note of it, just a scrap of paper that you always go back to put a number on or something like that. It's not a bad idea to do it, however formal you want to make it. The more accurate, the better, but I know it's a chore. Well, it's a chore for me, so it's a chore for everybody. But I think that's a good bit of housekeeping that we should do.
Okay.
I'm not looking paid for that. None of us are at the moment, but I am going to introduce somebody else from my office, probably at the next meeting, who will take a bit of the burden of this off me, just to allow me to do other things. Not that I won't be doing it, but I'm conscious that we'll have a period, December, January, where we will begin to receive small bits and pieces of inquiries, whether it be about hotels or will we really see the Northern Lights, or things, just comfort questions that we will have to reply to. So I'll have somebody available to deal with that. I know, Lynn, you don't have the time to respond to stuff like that day to day. So I think it's just a decision I've made to make sure somebody can fend some of that for us as a group.
that'd be great.
I told you I would keep talking, so I will shut up now.
So the other three things we have are any updates that Sarah wants to provide on the digester, which maybe none, who knows? And then research findings and research installations. So also anything else anyone wants, but
Yeah, I'll give like a short 2 to 3 minutes update, but basically we've got our group together. We had our kickoff with Margaret and Max, getting all the players up to their speed on their roles. We've had our first internal meeting on materials that we're going to use and shortlisting what works in the winter, what's available in rural and remote communities, what's available in Alaska, and we've figured out a place to put our digester for the next 2 years, which is coming up. So that's where we're at. In terms of other project planning for EPA, Margaret, this is like a short email form from me, but what we wanted to do was like internally within NREL come up with a design with, and then go back to either this group and EPA to go for like go no goes on our assumptions and design. So that's how we're trying to gather input. Every month we're gonna like give some progress updates, and this group together can dissect it and tell us why it's a bad idea or a good idea, and keep going for that. The hope is by sometime in January, February, we will kind of finalize the design and build something in March. We want to catch a cold timeframe still so that we can test the sensors out by putting water in. So it's going to freeze outside for a while, test all our sensors whether are okay before putting in actual poop in May. Also, not actual poop, synthetic poop. This is kind of for internal NREL, like IBC committee requirements. Anything above like 1,000 gallons should, trying to limit the hazard, it has to be synthetic poop. So I know we've had that discussion with this team before, whether we can use dog waste, and it's just a bureaucratic process within NREL. So we're kind of suggesting synthetic poop. More in terms of like testing the sample materials, that's still on EPA side. It's like, I think, Margaret, you're trying to get UAF involved to test samples.
Yeah, just trying to see if that could work. There's been some positive response, some indication that it may be multiple labs at UAF that we'd have to coordinate with, which is obviously a lot of coordination, but
yeah, so basic
Not for
timeline,
sure.
we're still coming up with a design. Right now we're shortlisting materials that's available first, and then coming out design from there. We found a location for it, and Margaret will keep you updated as we go. See, 3 minutes. Awesome. Back to you, Margaret.
oh,
Great. Does anybody have any questions? All right.
anyone want to brag about anything they're doing? I want to hear about it.
I had
whatever
a
it is.
question about the synthetic poop. What would it take to test not synthetic poop? Like, could that be like a second step, or like what would be required to do that?
More approvals on our end.
Okay, so it's just like a regulatory thing because of like biohazards and
Yeah,
that sort of thing.
basically
Yeah.
that. I can see why we can go around it, but so far from our IBC community says it's much more effort than it's worth. And so for like a small residential, it doesn't make sense to get that approval. A lot more effort to get that. And we, assuming like synthetic waste is what Margaret and Max have been testing in the lab for, just coming it to a larger scale in real life is just a continuation of that. Do you really want to cross that line? That's the question.
We're gonna have
Well,
to.
I think we probably need to cross
point.
that line at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for this,
Maybe not today.
Yeah, I was going to ask that too. If that is that sort of step 2, step whatever. The next step is to cross that line and test it before, to make sure it worked on a smaller scale before you took it out to the next scale.
I'm sure we'll have opportunities to do that, considering we'll feed it. So in terms of like, let me cross that path when we get there. Let's get a working system that's fully enclosed, that won't leak over this winter before we put real poop in that. That would be my path forward if we're gonna cross that line.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Sounds super complete, and you're making a lot of progress. So it's great to be doing something instead of waiting for funding. So that's congratulations, group that's working on that. It's awesome.
Yeah, and still really early, so we're just getting our feet bearing together. And the most important part is, because there's already snow on the ground, is finding a place to store for the winter. So yeah, that's my priority, making sure our spot is not, it's already snowed, and so getting anything across our lawn out here is going to be more challenging as more snow comes. And
All right. Thank you. And I heard Margaret say, does anybody have any cool projects they're working on that they want to take this time to share?
Well, yeah, so actually, there are 2 students from Columbia who have put together a presentation for struvite precipitation from digesters. Can we take it? Would everyone be okay with their presenting on what they're working on in Colombia?
Right now?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Jaime, do you want to introduce the students?
Hello, good afternoon.
Hey.
Sorry, my connection is a little bit unstable. Well, we have prepared a presentation about the struvite precipitation from Digestate. There are two students that are developing this research. So to save time, so Maria Jose, go on and make the presentation, please. Can we share the screen?
I think you should be able to.
Yeah, there should be a share
Jose,
screen.
can you share
Go
the
ahead.
screen, please?
Hi everyone, did you listen to me?
Yes,
We
we can hear you.
Can I share the slides?
Absolutely, please. Do you have a button at your bottom to say share screen?
Give me a sec, please.
Okay.
Did you see
Awesome.
my presentation?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Hi everyone, I hope you are fine. My name is Anja Costa and my partner is Maria Oribe. We have been working on a project called Recovery of Struvite from the Digestate produced in the anaerobic digestion of pig manure in cold climate. We are the group from Colombia, together with Professor Liliana Castro and Jaime James. Please, if you have any doubts or don't understand any word I say, feel comfortable asking. My English isn't fluent, but I will do my best to make sure you understand me, okay?
You're doing great.
First of all, we must know what struvite is in general. Struvite is a mineral composed of magnesium, phosphorus, and ammonia in equal molar proportions. It is used as a fertilizer that recovers nitrogen and phosphorus from waste effluents. And on the other hand, the struvite crystal formations through chemical precipitations consist of two main stages. Nucleation, where the necessary ions like phosphate, ammonium, and magnesium come together to form small solid clusters. And crystal growth, where those clusters grow as more ions join their structure. And well, here we start with our case study. This is a tubular biodigester installed at EcoServe farm. It is used for the treatment of waste, such as pig manure and urine. The biodigester is located in Boyacá, Colombia, operating at an ambient temperature, more or less 70 Celsius degrees. 3 cubic meters of waste are fed, from which 3 cubic meters of digested and 9 cubic meters of biogas are produced. In addition, there are around 300 pigs on the farm. Our research problem began with the use of the digestate on the farm. It is applied directly to the pasture without knowing its properties or risks. That could bring the following problems, like residual methane production and greenhouse gas emissions, phytotoxic effects on the soil, and pathogen content. In that order of ideas, we focus on assessing the laboratory scale production of struvite from the digestate produced at EcoServe pig farm located in a cool climate. there are the objectives of our project. The general is produce estrobite at a laboratory scale from the dataset obtained from the anaerobic digestion of pig manure in cold climate. And we have three specific objectives. The first one is determine the quality of the digestate produced at EcoCircle farm for estrobite precipitation through its biochemical, psychochemical, aeronomic, and microbiological characterization. The second is evaluate the effect of pH, agitation speed, and reaction time for the recovery of phosphorus and nitrogen through estrobite precipitation obtained from the digestate produced at EcoCircle pig farm. And the last one is determine the quality of the precipitate crystal from the digestate produced as EcoCircle pig farm in terms of morphology and purity. The methodology. Well, the stage one is determination of digestate quality. And to determine the digestate quality, the following methods shown in the table are necessary for each type of characterization. And well, now estrobite production and determination of favorable conditions. The formation of estrobite crystal is influenced by various conditions and variables such as pH, temperature, agitation speed, and magnesium phosphate ratio, phosphate concentration, and reaction time. It is important to ensure duration in the reaction for precipitation. And previous studies have focused on the influence of the speed, temperature, and magnesium phosphate ratio. But in this study, we have chosen to examine the effect of pH and time of the crystal formation process. And we have designed 3 exponential 2-factorial experiments with 2 factors in pH and time at 3 levels. High with 120 minutes for reaction times and 9.5 pH. Level 2 is medium, and level 1 is the lowest. So our operating conditions are temperature 23 Celsius degree, is an ambient temperature, volume 2 liters, magnesium source, we use magnesium dichloride. For pH control, we use sodium hydroxide, and the phosphate content, in this case, we have 111 milligrams per liter. Also, magnesium and phosphate ratio of 1.5, and agitation speed of 200 revolution per minute, based on our research that we have taken into account. This is the step-by-step for our process. Initially, it's necessary to remove the solid contained in the digestate, as this affects the precipitation and crystal purity. We then proceed with chemical precipitation at using the pH of the digestate to the level we are going to study. And next, we add magnesium dichloride and initiate the process with agitation for the study or period of time. This reaction releases hydrogen ions through dissociation with ammonium. These hydrogen ions lower the pH, making it more acid, So it is crucial to monitor the pH throughout the process. And after completed the experiments, the mixture is left to settle for some hours. In our case, it was 10 hours. And then the resulting product is filtered using a filter paper, either in a room temperature or in an oven 37 Celsius degrees. And this is the actual process we use, employing a jar text to maintain a constant speed in the experiment. Finally, the results. There are the outcomes of stage 1 in terms of digestate quality compared against the recommended limits of Colombian technique for direct use of this digestate in irrigation. As you can see, there are certain parameters that the digestate does not meet in terms of recommended values. Therefore, a predetermined process such as obtaining estrobites is necessary before using the digestate directly. In the agronomic characterization, the digestate was studied at various concentrations. Phytotoxic was assessed based on the germination index, where for each digestate concentration, the number of germinated lettuce seeds was observed. At concentration of 1 and 10%, there was no phytotoxicity. At 20%, it was moderate, and at 50% and above, it was very high, preventing seed germination. We continue with the result of estrobite production. In the first graph, we analyze the phosphate recovery percentage, reaction time, and pH. The recovery percentage is determined by comparing the initial phosphate content in the digestate with the final after obtaining estrobite. At pH 8.5, we observe that recovery decreases as reaction time increases. And this could be explained by the fact that 60 minutes are enough at this pH for recovery, so an extended time may be reached an equilibrium, slowing down product formation and reducing recovery. It is also possible that with longer aggregation time, the former crystals are very small and don't have enough time to form the necessary nuclei for growth. Currently, we await size studies for a more precise response. At higher pH, such as 9 and 9.5, we observe that estrobite recovery is nearly the same, or even increases as time goes on. This is because during the precipitation process, this is a possibility of forming other crystals like calcite, which precipitates at a pH between 9 and 10.5 due to the high carbonate concentration. Calcite tends to act as solid nucleus for estrobite formation, promoting phosphate recovery and increasing in estrobite formation. It can be noticed that as time increases, in some cases, phosphate recovery also increases, as calcite formation takes more time. Therefore, an external reaction times influence higher calcite formation and consequently a higher recovery, as you can see over here. In the second graph, we can observe the precipitated mass per 2 liters of digestate for each one. During the estrobite recovery process, we notice that estrobite adhere to the walls of the container, used during precipitation, often leaving many crystals that couldn't be recovered, especially at pH of 8.5. This suggests that the crystals were likely smaller and didn't grow as much. At the top of each bar is the purity percentage, with estrubite constituting this portion while the remainder is calcite. No formation of other crystal was observed, so we consider this percentage as the purity percentage. In the following graphs, we took into account the purity, comparing the grams of estrubite actually recovered to the grams expected to be recovered based on the theoretical consumed moles. We can see that theoretically, more mass expected to be recovered than what was actually obtained. This could be due to the factors mentioned earlier. And therefore, we recommend using a material that is not prone to estrubite adherence on its walls to allow to better recovery. We also awaiting studies to obtain particle size data. And finally, we have the X-ray diffraction analysis, in which similarity can be observed among all the experiments, but there is a slight variation in the presence of calcite due to some more intense peaks of it, like these ones. And this concludes my presentation. I hope you have understood me, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. This is wonderful. I
Thank you.
feel like all of the benefits we can get from these processes are likely to improve the willingness of people to take the time, which benefits us all, since pathogens aren't great for anyone. Looks like Emery's got thoughts.
I have a question. So this is pig poop.
Yes.
Have you tried this for any other agricultural waste, like cow or sheep or anything else, like any other?
Urine or something like that?
No, just different animal poop.
Oh, okay. No, not yet. It's only in this moment with pig manure, but in the future, we could investigate more about it.
I want to add something, Embry, if you let me. We have tried those digestates applying directly to the crops. So we have found very good results and are comparable with the use of fertilizers, commercial fertilizers. So we hope that the use of estrubits can reach higher yields in crops growing and adding more nutrient to the soil.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. So if you want to, we can present this part in the event in March. I don't know if it can be interesting for the public, for the audience. We are open to make this presentation also.
I think so. I think what we always struggle with in this group is scaling, and by which I mean like how much struvite could we actually produce out of these smaller digesters, and what that would look like from a yield kind of perspective. And I think that would also just be helpful for us to understand
This information, and we can complement the presentation, adding those data to improve it and to reach the public, as you say, the scale. So for example, if we have a digester of 40 cubic meters, how much distribute can we obtain?
Yeah. Yes.
What
Yeah.
are the yes.
And the reason I ask about different wastes is because I know here we've done some work at Washington State University on struvite precipitation using cow manure digesters. And there's so much calcium in that waste that struvite precipitation is inhibited, actually. And so that's why I'm curious about whether other, struvite precipitation in human poop digesters is a problem sometimes, right? That's looking for a solution. But I was just curious about the feasibility of other feedstock.
Yes, it is possible. Also, we have tried goat manure with cheese whey, and the yields of precipitation of estrubits are higher because of the content of phosphorus in the cheese whey.
Yeah. So co-digestion works.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. That's I think that would be interesting if you guys are game. Well, I mean, is that okay, Robin?
Yes, I just gave the thumbs up on the chat because let's have some titles for presentations in line with the community and science aspects. So yes, please, let's just get that on the agenda.
Yes, perfect.
Yeah, thank
we
you.
are available, so just put it.
Awesome.
Okay, I'm going to have to duck out in a few minutes. I'm going to have to go and pack a bag and get a plane soon.
A small bag, shorts and a t-shirt, it sounds like.
We're jealous.
That's the intention.
Enjoy.
But no, sorry, I didn't mean to bring it to a close, but I was just saying if I disappear, that's why. So,
okay. Happy travels.
But continue on, everybody.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you, Robin. All right, any other questions on the presentation or linkages to the workshop? And then we have attendance on our spreadsheet for Jaime and Angie. Maria, they're already head counted.
I know Jaime is on this sheet. I don't know. Do we have Maria and Angie? I'll have to look.
Anybody else you're thinking about bringing, Jaime, that can come with your group? We started our meeting talking about the workshop, attendees, spaces left, workshop design, etc. You don't have to let us know now. There'll be an all call again, more opportunity to bring more colleagues. All right, not hearing anything. Any other questions? Thank you, Angie. That was great. Good work. Keep it up. And we look forward to meeting you and seeing the presentation again in March. Anybody else working on anything that would be of interest to this group or have a burning question, kind of stuck in something that you want to crowdsource with all these fine minds from different perspectives? No. Anything else, Margaret, that you've got on your list that we haven't talked about? Embry? All right.
Sign up, people, get money. Yeah, toss ideas for agenda items and stuff over the fence.
Yeah, and what you'll be seeing next, it sounds like if you have if your name is on the workshop attending spreadsheet, is a Excel spreadsheet back for you for your costs, for those of you in the category that are able to accept costs from the NATO grant. Increasing the attendees. Embry's going to work on the invitation to sponsor.
Yeah.
Margaret's going to reach out to GMI. Were you going to do that, Margaret? GMI.
I just sent Monica an email.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, great.
I'm gonna see if people who have said they're on the list want to be presenters or panelists or otherwise on the agenda.
Okay, and then I also heard for those of you who've said head nod yes, if you have a partner that wants to come as well, that looks like that's an open opportunity. So don't forget to head count them for field trips and meals. It sounds like $200 fee, 480 for commercial attendance fees, and a yet to be determined category of who would be included are charities and communities. So if you know people in those categories, it won't be the full price. That's looking for a max attendance of 60. So those are highlights. We might have everybody back on the phone who was there at the beginning. Everybody's dropping off. But that just summarizes the notes that I have.
Yeah, those are great. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
If you have those, could maybe stick them in the IARPIC, or if you can, I can.
Oh, right. And we're going to see if we can find that video.
Yeah.
Who wanted it? I've got it. It's in my notes. We'll send you the video, whoever I said we'd send the video to. And then maybe just a link to the group again, to the files that we've got of information, just to keep it. It's also something we could just put in every meeting invitation. I know that I always have a hard time finding those SharePoint, OneDrive, filing system links are completely lost on me. So,
totally.
So we'll include that now as we're adding new people. And as always, if you hear of anybody directly or collaterally interested in this topic, even if they just want to sit and listen to a meeting, always it's very open, inclusive, and we always welcome new faces and ideas. So thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And David Green. Oh, see how you dropped off. Oh, there you are. My daughter works in Boulder at Daedalus, next to Boxcar. The espresso. Boxcar is a great espresso place you probably know of. And then the charcuterie place is next to it. So that's my connection to Boulder. She moved there, right as the pandemic started, actually. So
I will have to check it out. I have not been. But,
yeah, it's got great cheese and salami. And if you're not into that kind of thing, it's got great coffee at Boxcar. So it seems to be a hub on Pearl Street there. Kind of a pain in the ass to park, but there's free parking. There's free parking a block away, or take your bike.
Thanks. Hey, and Embry, I see that you know Marla Smith-Nilsson.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I worked with Marla when she was at water.org, and then have stayed in touch with her for the Water First and fundraisers. So
yeah, we used to live in Seattle, and we would do the Walk for Water. And we did the Carry 5 and we would go to the fundraising, but that Carry 5, it's tough, right?
Yes.
People are like, oh, strap a jerry can on your back with it. And I think that's such a wonderful organization.
Yeah, she's awesome, and she can be forgiven for. I was going to make a UNC comment, but I know you.
I also went to UNC, so
I know. Yes, I saw that. So thank you for connecting. It's all good. Great. Glad to make the connection. Thank you for making me.
I love it. That's part of this group that's part of the reason too. Also, is like there's a lot of us working on a lot of things in different parts and pieces, and we got to all kind of get our heads together to support an efficient development. So
Great.
Good.
So okay.
Thanks for joining.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.